This is about an event that still causes deep emotions in younger generations and decades later. This event has and will continue to affect every American for more generations to come. In the fall of 1963, President Kennedy and his advisors began a campaign for the next presidential election. He began his efforts in 9 western states and traveled to Boston and Philadelphia. A month later, he decided that he needed to win Texas and Florida. Miss Kennedy decided to take her first trip with him to Texas after the loss of their young child in August. The campaign in Texas was addressed to issues concerning conservative and natural resources. The president also wanted to touch base on education, national security, and world peace, which was one of the deepest concerns that he had. The first stop was in Texas and San Antonio, where he dedicated the Aerospace Medical Health Center. The next morning, the president was facing rain, spoke to a crowd in front of a hotel, where he stayed and went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting to speak afterwards. After they all went to Caswell Air Force Base for the short flight to Dallas, where they were greeted by well-wishers, the rain had stopped, and then Texas Governor Conway and his wife in the front seat of a convertible with Mrs. President, Mrs. Kennedy, and Mr. Kennedy. In the back, the motorcade started its 10-mile drive through downtown Dallas to the Trade Mart where the president was scheduled to speak. The car turned into Main Street around 12:20 p.m. Then, as the motorcade passed the Texas School Depository, gunfire erupted. To the horror of the crowds lining the streets and the televised audience across America, President John F. Kennedy slumped over in Miss Kennedy's lap, and the motorcade made a dash to Parkland Memorial Hospital. Governor Conley was also wounded. He was being shot in the back, but he later recovered. At 1 p.m. on November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was pronounced dead. There have been many rumors over the decades as to who was behind the assassination of Mr. Kennedy. The man that fired the fatal shot, Lee Harvey Oswald, was a scapegoat of which is one. The CIA, the FBI, the Russians have also been accused of this incident. Though we will never know exactly what reasons there was to shoot Mr. Kennedy, the fact still remains America lost one of its favorite, if not the most lovable, influential president in history. It was through this horrible tragedy that the security measures for the future presidents were changed. Although there have been attempts on later presidents to assassinate them, no President Ronald Reagan was shot by John Hinckel, but there has not been any success in the killings. No longer did they ride in the open convertible, but rather in heavy bulletproof limos. The motorcade consists of identical cars that way the assassins wouldn't know which one was which. They were rather heavy bulletproof. But we all have seen the pictures of the smiling president and our first lady waving to the crowds from the back of that faithful convertible. And who could ever forget the young boy John F. Kennedy Jr.'s famous salute to his father during the funeral?